Everybody's lives are going to change when this becomes apparent. No matter what you've done, but you want to have and maintain a reasonable standard of living. And you want to maintain your purchasing power. Inflation is not a monetary phenomenon. We think it is. We've been trained to think it is, but it is a fiat money phenomenon. It is an invisible tax, and it is a confiscation of your wealth, of your work, of your time and labor. So when people say to me, oh, well, the government wouldn't confiscate again, excuse me, they've been doing it your entire life. What are they going to do? Stop at the very end when they're getting the last little bit you have and go, oh, but wait, you get to keep your wealth. No, that's not what any of this is about. Gone. Store of value. Then there were 3. Now, I'm telling you, there is another run that is happening on the dollar today. And it really started after the financial crisis that became apparent to everybody in 2008. It really happened in 2007, but we all think of it as 2008. So these are the 2 largest buyers of our treasury bonds. That's what the current run is about. And they're selling them. China and Japan, the 2 largest buyers. Can you see that? Since 2012, they started selling them after the crisis. But this is a modern day run on the dollar. Make no mistake about it. People don't know how to look at it on a day-to-day basis. We don't know. But there it is. There's the evidence. And all they can do about it is print more. People think that, it's when they put the system in, they knew that people marry the legal money of the state, and they cannot help but think that it's going to regain some of its purchasing power. But frankly, it never does. So when do you want to know about it? When do you want to get prepared? People also think, well, I'm going to know right before, and then I'm going to be able to do everything. Quite honestly, I personally have been working on this on some level my whole life. But when 2008 hit, I 100% knew that the system had died. And so I've been working on my mantra: food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, which is arguably the most important factor in this these days, and shelter, because these are all the things we need to sustain a reasonable standard of living. Everybody's lives are going to change when this becomes apparent. No matter what you've done, but you want to have and maintain a reasonable standard of living, and you want to maintain your purchasing power. So let's just take a look, because what they want to transition us into is a digital surveillance monetary system. So whatever little control we had, even with the dollar bills in your pocket, they don't maintain your purchasing power, but they do maintain your principal. Well, guess what? In a digital system, what the central banks are saying is there is no limitation to how low they can push those interest rates. When you've lost all the purchasing power, what's left? It's called the principal. So that's what they're attacking. That's what the experiment was in 2009, those negative rates. And guess what? Didn't work. But it doesn't mean they won't do it again. We will see negative rates, and it'll happen in the U.S., it'll happen in Canada, it'll happen around the world. What are you going to do to prevent it? And even the newer dollars that come out, they're planning on putting a chip in it. They want to know everything that you're doing. They can do lifetime taxes, and they can control you. Because if you're not spending your money fast enough, they just push those interest rates down, and you watch your principal evaporate. So in this new system, this is why I say that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are a Trojan horse. I'm not saying that they're not here forever, right? Because I think that is the next iteration. But what are you going to have to shift into it? Because what they've been working on since 2009, January 2009, is adoption. Do they have enough adoption? Maybe so. How would they get that adoption? They allow the price to go up. What have they done with gold and silver? They have suppressed the price by selling lots and lots of gold and silver that does not nor ever will exist. But the cryptocurrencies, they want you to participate so that it makes it easier to transition you into the new system. It makes it seem normal and like nothing has changed, when in reality, everything has. And let me show you what that looks like. There's the digital dollar, right, that they've talked about. And this is programmable fiat money. Fiat is by decree, so it's government-based money. We don't really know exactly what's going to justify it in the current system. More debt justifies it. So go take out credit card loans, car loans, student loans, mortgages, take on debt, and that money is then loaned into existence. But in this case, it could be debt. It could be transactions. Oh, you're carrying all your wealth on your phone. Oh, I see, I want that boat. I have this equity in my house. I have lots of equity in my house. Big deal, I'll buy a little boat. And before you know it, you've spent all of your equity, right? And who are you going to blame if you made that choice? When in reality, everything, even though you were nudged in that direction. But what gold and silver do is it holds energy. The digital currencies, they use that energy up. And I say that it holds its energy because it's used in every sector, both gold and silver, of the economy. It allows fiscal irresponsibility. I mean, that's even cheaper and easier if there's no currency, but even if there isn't, it has a chip in it. Very easy to create. They push a button. What do you have to do with the metals? You have to mine them. You have to process them. It's a lot more work. This takes no time. And it is completely in their control because if you don't hold it, you don't use energy. The digital currencies, they use that energy up. And I say that you own it and you're not in control of it and you haven't read the contract. They're the ones that write all the contracts. No privacy. We all know that. They may say, oh, well, we have to protect that. Look, there's good and there's bad in everything. Do you trust the central banks to have your best interest at heart? Because what have they shown you that would lead you to that belief? Or the governments? No history. Gold and silver have 5,000 years, 6,000 year history as money. This has not yet been tested. Now, look, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. Everybody's got to do what they're comfortable with. What I'm saying is be properly diversified so that if this goes away, if the stock market implodes, when the fiat dollar collapses, you maintain your purchasing power. But this currency only has two functions. So out of the original four, because what they're talking about is having negative rates. And if your paycheck gets deposited into your account and it has immediately negative rates, you're not even being fairly paid for your labor today, let alone into the future. No store of value. That's not what this is about. It's your choice. Are you willing to accept that? Are you willing to accept that if you don't do what they like, you don't say what they like, all of a sudden you're cut out of the system? 100% of the time you can convert this into any currency at all. So you can't avoid whatever the legal tender is of the realm, but you can maintain your purchasing power until you need to use that other. And if we come together in global community, let's have a choice. Let's have that new currency truly backed by 40% gold. And the only way that you know something is truly backed by it, regardless of what they blah, blah, blah say, is you can pull that out at your choice. You can convert it into the underlying asset. This is particularly true because there's all sorts of asset-backed securities that are coming out, right? Well, are they really? Because how can you prove it? How do you take back your control? You got to hold it to own it. So the choice is yours. We've got sound money, physical gold, physical silver. We've got fiat debt-based money, which is at the end of its life cycle because there's no purchasing power left. So they're going to start to attack the principal. We're going into, a hyperinflationary depression because of this. There's no other choice. They have to burn off that debt, and they do that by hyperinflating the currency into absolutely zero value, as you saw in that original slide. Those are their slides, not mine. Go on there. You'll see the true value. Into this next iteration, I want sound money that performs all of those original functions. Then if I have to deal with any other kind of money, I'm holding my purchasing power intact until that time. So regardless of what you're going to do, if you're going to hold stocks or bonds or ETFs or annuities or cryptocurrencies, these are all intangible assets. Every single portfolio needs a foundation in sound money. And the way that we do it at Zhang Enterprises is in layers, right? So that no matter what it is that you need to accomplish, you have accomplished that. This is what happens to the spot price of gold and then ultimately to the value of gold when they reset, when enough confidence from the public is lost and they need to regain that confidence. And you can see, doesn't it all look the same? I could put up 1,000 charts. They all look the same. So they suppress the price, but then when they need to regain your confidence, they do those overnight revaluations, right? There are strategies all around that, depending upon what your personal goals are, what your personal circumstances are. It is a layered approach so that no matter where we are in this trend cycle, you are appropriately diversified and you have protected your purchasing power. It's critical that we all do this because this is what happens. But not ETFs, not intangibles. Everything else, all that other stuff is intangible. I became a stockbroker in the 80s, and there was a huge push for assets in-house. And they paid me if I could talk you into putting your wealth into a house account, because then they get to use your equity for their benefit. Let's take that benefit away from them. Let's do something that is truly, completely outside of the system, that is truly and completely above all central banks, above all governments. Here we are. We are just about a year old, I believe. On February 1st, we will be 1 year old at Zhang Enterprises. Even though I've been doing this since I was about 4 years old and I'm 70, right? And we all know I was at ITM for over 22 years, developing this strategy since 1987. And this is what we provide for you. And it's not just there's gold and then there's gold, and there's silver and then there's silver. What are you trying to accomplish? No matter what you're doing, it should always support your goals first. So that's what we like to do. We like to establish your goals and then help you build a sound money portfolio that supports them wherever we are in this trend cycle. Because this is a wealth transfer mechanism. I don't know, what a concept to have the wealth transfer your way for a change instead of away from you. And we can do it so simply just by converting this garbage fiat into sound money. And guess what? If we can come together in a global community, we can have a peaceful movement. We can have a peaceful revolution. Because I believe that everybody's job on this planet is to share their gifts and their talents. That's what I do. That's why I do what I do. And I've been working on this really virtually my whole life. But if we can build this community, because I am only one person, and a lot of people out there will go, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. Well, one person can't do a lot against the government and the central banks. They can't, or the major corporations. And it should be pretty apparent who's really running things. these days, it's the corporations. And the corporations will suck the life out of you. They'll suck the money out of you because they don't really care. How about doing a reversal? How about we all come together and make a positive difference for the whole world?